Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday morning. It's Stephen Whiteside here from the uptrend.com. In the pre-market this morning, we do not have any major economic numbers coming out. Everybody is waiting for the Fed meeting, which concludes on Wednesday, and we get the announcement at 2 p.m. Wednesday afternoon. Now, right now, stock index futures are slightly below fair value, so not any aggressive selling in the pre-market on Tuesday morning. At the same time, commodities are moving higher, gold hitting a new all-time high, and crude oil is up in the pre-market on Tuesday morning. Now, we've been talking about the VIX changing direction in the middle of March, and so far that's what we're seeing. The problem is it's different this time. Previously the market was making higher highs and higher lows. Now in 2025, we've made lower highs and lower lows. A lot of the symbols are trading from below all the major moving averages, which could potentially act as resistance on the way up. You can see the Dow traded up to the 200-day moving average yesterday and stopped on a dime. Now, this is the time and place we're expecting a rally. We had a full moon last week. Back in January, when we had a full moon, that marked the bottom for that particular move in the market, and then we moved up. Unfortunately, we put in a lower high, and now we've put in a lower low. Looking at the panic zone chart, this is the time and place. We were down through the bottom of the panic zones last week. We had a nice pressure zone forming. This is the time and place. We look for buy signals. Again, it's a different situation this time, so we're not as enthusiastic to the upside. Of course, every symbol in our database is going to have its specific price targets. So we found support down at this level last week. Looks like we're trying to move up two lines, and then, of course, we'll look above. What was support on the way down should act as resistance on the way back up. And of course, yesterday's activity, while it was bullish, we didn't see any major trend changes for the major indices themselves, but certainly a lot of stocks generated buy signals on Monday. So there's the Dow trading in the channel yesterday, certainly a mathematical possibility of a buy signal on Tuesday. And of course, we traded up to the 200-day moving average. We are projecting to move higher from here. But one of the things a lot of people are noting is a lot of symbols are seeing that death cross where the moving averages are starting to cross over. It hasn't happened for the Dow yet, but it has happened for other symbols. We're also a lot of symbols are also trading from below the flypaper channel. So in the bull market, which recently ended, the market is trading from underneath the flypaper channels. So what was previously support should now act as resistance on the way back up. Now, what didn't work yesterday, well, one of the few losers on the day was actually the Magnificent Seven. The ETF was down just a tick over 1% on the day, so no major trend change there. We still have NVIDIA on a buy signal, but no follow through to the upside on Monday. And the rest of the major tech stocks in the Magnificent Seven are still on sell signals, including Tesla. Tesla was down 4.79% yesterday. It's down another $5 in the pre-market this morning, so certainly not breaking any new areas of support. Now, if we go back to our monthly price target chart from the start of the year, if we could take out 500, 560, 250, and 625 were the next targets to the upside. Of course, that's not what has happened. We're looking at 312.50, then 250, and then 187.50. Were all legitimate targets to the downside. This weekly chart from last Friday shows us closing just below the 250 level. So on a weekly basis, it's 187.50 is our next target. Of course, you expect some psychological support at the $200 level. If we zoom in a little more and look at the daily price target chart, to get to 187.50, we have to break down below 218.75, which we've already been down and used that as support. So here we are looking to see if the 218.75 level continues to hold. Now, I was talking to a subscriber yesterday who is currently short Tesla, and we were talking about the fact that, could all this end? Could Tesla be no more? Could it just fade away? And that is certainly a possibility. Now, it has a diversified source of income. Of course, there's government rebates, but they also have the carbon tax credits. that they sell off. That brings in a lot of money for Tesla, and they own some crypto. So, they do have some different sources of income besides just selling cars. But the fact that they were first to market, the fact that they had, a major percentage of the market does not mean anything in reality. If we go back in time, there are thousands of examples of companies that were first to market, had 100% market share, and then, it all faded away. I can give you some examples from, my life. Before there was Windows, the biggest operating system was CP/M, and I bet you probably have never heard of that, but that was the industry standard for a while. The reason we have databases on personal computers is from a company called Ashton Tate that made a database called DB2. That was the industry standard. That's what everybody learned to code back in the day until it wasn't. The reason you have Excel is because a company called VisiCorp developed a product called VisiCalc, and they had 100% market share for a few years, and then it all faded away. And before you used Microsoft Word to write your documents, the industry standard was WordPerfect. WordPerfect, as companies were migrating away from dedicated word processing machines, they moved to PCs with WordPerfect, and they had 100% market share for a few years, and then they didn't. So there's, lots of examples of companies that were first to market, had 100% market share, and then it all just faded away. Now, the VIX continued to move lower on Monday. That's supportive for higher stock prices, and our VIX ETFs are now back on sell signals as of Monday's close. So congratulations, anyone who was long the VIX. Looking at the major index ETFs, no trend changes, but certainly S&P 500 trading up into the channel yesterday. Didn't break out above last Monday's high, but is certainly testing it. Then looking at the equal weighted S&P 500 again, we did not break out above last Monday's high, but that is certainly a nice move up to the upper channel line. So certainly a possibility of a buy signal on Tuesday. The NASDAQ 100 traded up into the channel, looking for a close on Tuesday above $490.81. Of course, there's a big round number just above us up at 500, which was resistance, then acted as support. And I would imagine it's going to act as resistance again. There's a possibility of a buy signal for the Russell 2000 for small caps and micro caps on Tuesday. Moving on to the Canadian market, the iShares for the TSX 60 tickled the upper channel line yesterday. We're still looking for a close above $37.58 on Tuesday. There's an open gap just above us that could act as a price magnet and an area of resistance. Now, the Vanguard Canada ETF doesn't have that open gap to deal with, and it is back on a buy signal as of Monday's close. Now, what worked? Well, gold and gold stocks continued to move higher on Monday. In percentage terms, the big winner on Monday was actually the silver miners making a new high. We had copper miners back up to the highs from back in February. And we had energy stocks, which are certainly a very large component of the TSX. They were up on the day as well. So no change in trend for any of those sectors. They continue to move higher. Okay, folks, that is all for this morning's presentation. So far, it looks very quiet out there. I often say that the market gets quiet before the Fed meeting, but this time around, who knows what's going to happen and what President Trump might say at any particular time that could change the direction of the market. You have a great day. Next time you'll hear my voice is on Wednesday morning.
Thanks for tuning in until the very end of today's stock market timing educational video. If you found the content valuable, don't forget to express your support by hitting the like button, leave a comment, sharing with your friends, and subscribing to our channel for more insightful updates. Remember, in the world of stocks, timing is crucial, and following the trend can be your greatest ally. If you would like more information on how we can help you better time the stock market, please visit theuptrend.com.